system that was like an email marketing program. He had another one that was a contact manager. He had 6 different Outlook files from all of his salespeople. He had a shopping cart system, and then some other. He had literally 18 different databases, and they were all over the place. None of them were in the same system, so he had all these different software systems too. And he came to us because that disorganization was what ultimately caused this problem. And it's interesting. I'm reading a book right now that talks about. It's actually it's about dogs, but in there she talks about the similarities between the brain of the human and the brain of the dog. And she talked about the cerebellum, the back part of our brain that connects to the spinal cord and everything. Well, I guess everything does, but in the back part of the brain that automates. That's probably the wrong word to use. That manages our subconscious things like breathing and so forth. And she said it's a great thing that we have that, because otherwise we would have to stay up at night reminding ourselves to breathe, and I'm sure that we would forget. And I thought about that. I was like, man, how similar is that to the way that business owners have all of their customers, their prospects, in a bunch of different systems. When you have everything disparate like that, there's no way that you can have this kind of automatic stuff that happens. Your brain is the front part of your brain, the cortex, is having to think about it and having to churn on it and remember it and do all this stuff. And that, I think, is one of the most significant causes for chaos. When you can't just say, you know what, I'm going to go and find out how many of my customers bought within the last 30 days or the last 3 months, whatever, and who have shown interest by coming to this page on our website, and but have not yet purchased this next product that we're launching. When you can't do that, when it takes an act of Congress to be able to go pull things out of these 5 systems and put them into one, that creates chaos. And I think you probably, if you've got these different systems out there, you know what I'm talking about. And you got paper, you got sticky notes, you got Excel spreadsheets, you got all this stuff, and 5 different people own it. And when you think about the cost of that to your company, you've got to realize that having everything centralized and organized, and I'm talking especially about your core list of prospects and customers. There is so much value that can be in your prospects and customer list, that there's no way you can tap into if they're in separate places. So that's a great action item for you today, is to develop the discipline and find the right way to get everything into one system. You need to have a living and breathing customer database so that you know who these people are that you're selling to. This is a key to growth. Okay. All right, the second thing that I like to talk about in terms of a systems strategy is the power of follow-up. Now, this will be an interesting exercise. Rachel, I'd like to do to launch this second poll right now. I want to find out how you feel about your level of follow-up. Let's see if the audience today is consistent. So go ahead and click on the response that is best meets you. And we'll let that go for about another 5 or 10 seconds. How well do you feel like you follow up? Okay. Well, this is actually a pretty impressive group. This is not a typical. Usually when I ask this question to an audience, we have about 10% of the people that are happy with their level of follow-up and who say, you know what, I don't think I could get any more business if I followed up more. But by and large, most people realize they could be following up better. That the level of follow-up that they have is, like I can think of back when, before we had a better follow-up system in place, I remember this feeling of guilt that I kind of had where people would call up and prospects would be wanting more information, for example, and I would say, sure, I'll send that to you. And I would quickly move on to the next person that I was talking to, and I would never send that to them. That's one clear example of follow-up failure, if you will. But generally, I think we all know in our gut, and the thousands of entrepreneurs we've talked to, we know in our gut that more follow-up will bring more business, but we feel helpless to do that. And we're very good at attacking the hot prospects, the people that are just clearly ready to do business today, but we don't do as well with the people that are just not ready today. And so often timing is such a critical component to our sales, and someone may, because of the situation that they're in today, may be absolutely closed to the idea of considering to do business with you, but a day or a week or a month from now, the situation in their life has changed. Statistically speaking as well, we know that it takes about 7 contacts for 7 interactions with a company for somebody before they're ready to do business with them. Now, here's the sad part. So imagine in your mind a 7 tick marks. Well, statistically speaking, we typically follow up about 2.5 times. That's about the number of interactions we typically give to prospects before we give up. Now, somewhere in that, we have hot prospects who don't need 7 contacts, right? There are some people outside of that. But if you think about we need to get to the 7th tick mark to get a deal. But by the 2.5 we're giving up, there's a massive gap. What we basically are doing, we're following up a couple of times, and then we're warming somebody up to go to one of our competitors to finish off the 7 contacts. So, that follow-up is just such a critical component. I want to talk with you about a way of thinking about follow-up that we developed here at Infusionsoft that I think will help you to think about your follow-up a little bit more systematically. So we talk about this in the context of what we call the perfect customer lifecycle. So I want you to imagine your prospective customers and the process you take them through all the way from attracting their interest, maybe through traffic on your website, all the way through selling them and getting a repeat sale and them actually sending their friends and associates to you. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about this today, but I will just say that there are a bunch of different areas of follow-up that we can implement that will completely revolutionize the way that your small business grows. So, for example, I'll just mention a couple very, very briefly, and we don't really have the time to talk about these in more detail, but I'll hit some common pain points. So the first step in the perfect customer lifecycle is your efforts to go out and attract traffic. And it might be traffic to your website, it might be traffic to your store, maybe people are calling in. And the next thing that we encourage people to do is to capture leads so that you can begin to follow up with them more. And in lead capture, we teach them about creating a magnet, something that is attractive to these prospects that will be attractive enough that they will actually give you their contact information in exchange for this thing so that you can then follow up with them later. This is if you think about the amount of traffic that may be coming to your website, for example, today, maybe in the time we've been on this call, how many people have come to your website, and because you haven't captured their information, you can't really even follow up with them. Sure, you're capturing the information of the hot prospect, but what about everybody else? What about the people that are mildly interested? And so, this is an area where if you sat down and analyzed your business, you could say, okay, am I capturing leads here so that I can nurture those prospects' relationships and eventually convert those people into sales? And, we're very good at kind of the attracting traffic phase, and then we kind of skip all the way to let's now convert the sale. But there are some areas in here that we don't follow up very well with. Another common place that we have challenges with would be over after we close the sale. And so we got a new customer. It's so easy once we've got the cash over here to just run back up to the top of run back all the way over to attracting traffic and start again. Let's get some more leads. Let's get some more prospective customers. But there's so much we can do in following up with our brand new customers to make sure that in addition to delivering our service, we're actually wowing those people with our follow-up, just basic follow-up. What are we doing to reach out and upsell these people proactively with follow-up? And then how are we asking for referrals? Once we've delivered a great experience for these people, how do we ask for referral? So that's something to think about. Where are there areas in your business where you're not following up systematically? And what can you do to attack those things? And, this has been maybe just kind of in anecdotal information. At Infusionsoft, like I said, we have 20,000 people who use our software, and this is really at the core of the benefit that we are helping people to achieve. It's that when you follow up more, close that gap between the 7 steps from the 2.5 up to the 7, amazing things start happening. You start having people come out of the woodwork that you're not talking to today because you're not following up effectively. And there are businesses out there who have literally tripled in size because of this one thing, getting their follow-up right. Okay, let's move on and let's talk about a second area, the third area on the system side, and that is about automation. Now, I have a theory. I believe that entrepreneurs are addicted to automation. I really do. I've observed as entrepreneurs begin to get a small taste, kind of as they have the epiphany about what they really can automate, they begin to get addicted, and like pretty soon they're wanting to automate everything. They're wanting to automate, things that probably should never be automated. So I'm not trying to suggest that we go that far, but there are so many things we do, so many repetitive tasks that you as the business owner or you as somebody inside of a small business that you do that just cause a tremendous amount of inefficiencies that could be completely automated without any impact. Now, there are some things we shouldn't automate. There are some key customer interactions that when you automate them, you lose the secret sauce of your business, and I'm not arguing to automate those things. But that's a really significant thing that you can do to leverage technology that we have today to kind of put parts of your business on autopilot. So one example, I talked about the perfect customer lifecycle today. I'll give you two examples of automation. The first is, if you look at, it's probably kind of hard to see this screenshot here, but if you take the perfect customer lifecycle, one of the things we do for our new customers is we help them to map their follow-up plan and build what we call a marketing automation plan. So what I'm saying is the follow-up that we just talked about can completely be automated by getting very clear about what that is and then using the right software technologies to make sure that all of that follow-up happens completely automatically. So like in this example, customers are driving traffic on a website. Let me just kind of highlight that so you can see it. Customers are driving traffic on a website. Those leads are automatically filling out a web form without talking to a person, and then follow-up here begins to happen to nurture the relationship. There's a series of emails that can go out. If somebody is interested, another piece of follow-up can start to go out. If they're not interested, then maybe a different thing happens. So you can kind of see how businesses are able to use automation to automate this critical part of follow-up. And so that's one example. Another example is the concept of just day-to-day monotony things. So, for example, if I am sending the same email to people all during the day, then why not create a very simple email template that has 90% of what's in, what needs to be said, and I can customize 10% if I need to. Or if it doesn't need to be customized, heck, let's have one template that's completely automated, and all I do is push one button and it sends it out. How many little 5-minute savings can you stack up to reclaim 2 hours a day? And then how can we use that 2 hours a day to have, the same number of staff members handle more customers or repurpose that time to work on more meaningful tasks? And so, a couple of quick examples would be, or suggestions would be, take a look at, maybe have your staff members do this if you own the company, but take a look at your outbox with emails that you've sent and see, okay, what are the things I've sent? Let's look at the last 5 days. What have I sent more than 3 times or more than 5 times? And let's find a way to automate that. Another one might be credit card charging. There's no reason people should be manually charging credit cards. If you sell things and you maybe charge credit cards on a monthly basis or something like that, this stuff should all be done automatically. It should be done online using software technology that doesn't require you to do all this crazy stuff. So anyway, just a little plug for automating different aspects of your life. And when you do that, let me just kind of circle back and tie all of this up into the why behind these 3 system strategies. When you create in your business a systematic growth engine where you know that I can invest this amount of time and money, and out of the back end of that is going to be a consistent stream of new customers that are ready to do business with me, the amount of chaos in your life begins to go away. And here's how it happens. Number one, you now have the revenue to be able to hire the right number of people that can accomplish it. And the great thing is that you do that efficiently. Not that the goal is to hire more people, but I know so many entrepreneurs who are in this state of chaos because they haven't been willing to they haven't been able, I should say, to hire the right people. And there's something about having a systematic growth engine in place that gives confidence to be able to hire. And I know what it's like. I know the pressure of deciding, should I hire that person? Because really what that means is I'm taking money from my take-home pay. And that just goes away when you have this systematic growth engine. And when you have that in place, your ability to think aggressively about the way that you run your company will completely change. So I hope that today I've shared with you some ideas that will that will help you in your business. I think these are concepts that we've shared with tons of business owners, and I hope that there are at least a couple little nuggets